Harley, I know you were from Natick.
Yep.
How did you get involved in the Boston music scene? Can you just tell me a little bit about your influences growing up and how that started?
Well, Natick doesn't have a music scene, so the only logical step, I guess, was to come here. I did go to school in New York City, where I played for a little bit, but again, the music scene where I was at school in Hempstead was kind of lackluster, and I was already planning on moving back here anyways for school after I went to Hofstra, and so it just seemed like the logical move was to really start trying to get a following going here. And you know, I also hear all the time, if you can get a following in Boston, you can get a following anywhere.
So why do you think that rings true? Like, what do you think it is about Boston?
I think that being in the New England area, you can't undercut the climate that we live in the fact that it is horrible, cold weather for like a good chunk of the year. And in the other half of the year, it's so beyond hot and sweltering. And I think that is part or an aspect of like forming a following here, is you need to convince people to actually like come out and see you,
Right.
which can be hard at certain times. And then I think the other thing here is that Boston, I think, is like a city comprised of suburbs, and you find that communities here are not only bigger but also closer than somewhere like New York, which is a city made of city. So you kind of have like more folks here that care about music and will care about each other than anywhere else. And I think it's easier to find people and have fun with people here and have like common interests and gig a lot
Right.
than anywhere else that I've been to in, you know, the East Coast, which is the only place I've been to. So
Would you say like the music scene here is more collaborative or competitive?
I think everyone here is really collaborative, which I really appreciate. Everyone around here, I find, can agree that like it is tough to make a following here, and that if you are, you know, if your band is a good band, a fun band, you know, and you are friendly folks and you meet folks that also like,
Right.
and you guys just share the same interests, that anyone's willing to help you out. I mean, I know the Mom Rock folks were super amazing to Magic Finger and you know, played a gig with us when we had like no business playing here in any capacity. And yeah, I don't think it's competitive at all. I know that also in the aspect of digital awareness, like we just started doing this. We have like 6 Instagram posts, and we've already gotten gigs from Clam and Muzzins, and we're talking to some other groups about doing some videos for them and some visualizations for them. And I think that everyone around here is just like excited to make things.
Yeah.
And I like that. So.
A lot of artists supporting each other, which is nice. So tell me more about how Magic Finger got its start. Like, you moved here to, you know, work for building violins down in the North End. How did you get involved with Magic Finger?
So Magic Finger started as a joke when I was in high school.
Oh, okay.
Magic Finger was like a fake name for a fake band that I came up with. 'Cause when I was in high school, I was in a acoustic-ish indie band, I guess. And we had fun, but I always wanted to be a punk band, and they never wanted to be a punk band, unfortunately. And then I broke my knee at a Together Pangea concert, and it shattered my dreams of being a punk band because I couldn't like walk for a year. So when I got to school, I met Margaret, who's our bassist, and at first we just did ukulele vocal music because I had this like bank of songs that I had written from when I was in high school that I wanted to get out, and some of them were guitar and vocal, and we didn't know anyone that played drums, and so I had some ukulele songs too, because I have a little ukulele. His name's Kevin, and I love him. And I've written a bunch of songs on that, and Margaret's got a beautiful voice, so we recorded some songs together. And then we got this radio interview at Hofstra.
So this started in New York.
Yeah, the whole thing started in New York.
Okay.
And so we got this radio interview at Hofstra, and the interview was conducted by the guy who ended up being our manager for a little bit. His name's Drew. He's great. And the radio tech for that show was Sean, who ended up playing drums with us up until very recently.
Okay.
And when he introduced himself, he told me he played drums, and like in that very moment, I asked him to be the drummer for the band because I didn't know anyone else. And he said yes, and Sean rocks. And I realized that we need another guitarist. and I knew Colin, so I asked Colin. He's our guitarist now, Cowboy Colin.
Mm-hmm.
We just played through the end of that year. It ended up being the COVID year, so whatever. We all live in different spots now, but we're like recording and like writing remotely and still.
Yeah. So, you know, you started high school acoustic indie, moved to some ukulele, but always had dreams of being a punk band.
Yes.
How did you kind of find this sound over time? Like, how do you feel like it has evolved in recent years? And, you know, how would you kind of describe your band's sound?
I've always liked very satisfying melodies.
Right.
I really like stuff that resolves, and I really like major harmonies.
Mm-hmm.
And I also really like really loud, really reverbed out guitar that drones a lot and like super big washes with a lot of delay.
Mm-hmm.
But I also like, I call it the roller coaster, I guess, where you start low and you come up and you come down and then you go up and then you ride it out in like whatever way you want. And that, I think, changes across not only songs but me as like a writer. Like, I used to be a very much ride it into the sunset type where it's just like solo forever.
Mm-hmm.
And now I think I'm starting to write songs, and all of us are starting to get into songs that aren't necessarily shorter, but they're just arranged differently. I also used to be anti-bridge. I used like no bridge, like absolutely not. And I've changed my mind, thankfully. Not to, I don't know. I think we've followed the same writing structure that like most groups have followed when it comes to like evolution of sound, and that you can tell that we're growing as writers. But I don't know. I guess I don't really know how to describe it. It's loud. I like music that's loud, and you like sit outside and you have a Diet Coke and relax on a Saturday when you're kind of hungover, and the melody is going to make you feel good about yourself, but the guitar is what's going to keep you from like falling asleep. It's tough.
Okay. Do you think during the writing process, you know, are you usually influenced by external things like what's going on in your community and your own life, or does it come from something internal? Where do you like draw from that?
As an individual, I have a hard time keeping external influences in my life out of becoming an internal thing that's happening, like with me as an individual. So I do find myself lately writing about things like the sea rising and this crazy existential fear that I have that like half of Cape Cod is going to shear into the ocean at any second. For our first record, 3 of us were graduating college, and Sean wasn't. So some of that music is about graduating college, and I think some of the music we're writing now is very much about moving home, which is, I think, separate than graduating. Graduating is like its own personal journey, and then the fact that you don't get to like stay, you have to like leave all your friends, is awful. So that was a huge influence, and it is. And then I did a lot of writing about like the classic unpacking of things that have happened in my life from before. So I know I'm in like the middle of writing a song right now about someone who got hit by a car, and she doesn't know if the person she was with pushed her in front of the car, tried to pull her away from it. And so like that's definitely an external thing, and that's a fun journey for me because I have never written something like that before. I think that we all strive to write lyrics. If it's a song about us personally, we all strive to write in a way that anyone could relate to. I think something that's really wonderful about Margaret and her lyricism is that her lyrics are so pointed and yet so applicable across so many different people and experiences. I am of the mindset that if you can impact one individual, then you know you've had a good day, for lack of a better term. So our message has always been peace and love, Magic Finger, and like at the end of the day, our goal is to help people in any way we can with music, whether it's them gaining an emotion or an emotional release from a song, or gaining an insight about themselves or something else, or learning something, or just any way that we can help anyone in any capacity. Yeah, I feel like it's insane to be 22, because I lost about 2 years of my college experience. Like, we are dealing with a climate epidemic as well as a pandemic, and it's, you know, I barely graduated, and I just don't even know how to like encapsulate or explain what it's like to be my age and existing right now, and then, you know, I sound like such a like an old fart, but it's like the internet isn't like impossible for me to access. Like, I don't understand it, and it took me having a sinus infection and being incapable to do anything for 2 weeks and forced to sit in my apartment alone every day to like get through that and like finally start writing again, because I had the opportunity to like sit down by myself and was like kind of forced to just like deal with it and like look at it and look at myself really and say like, okay, just like, it's time to start writing some words again. Like, you got all these progressions and you feel emotional. Just like stop getting in your own way and just like write words down. And if they don't go well together, it's fine. You can fix it later. You just got to get it out of your system.
Right. So I know you've kind of told me a little bit about how much like the pandemic has affected you in the past 2 years. Like, a lot of your songs have been influenced by the fact that, you know, you're feeling isolated and, you know, it's so hard adjusting to this. Like, how have you overcome that as like a live music performer? How has that, you know, challenged your music?
So in the pandemic, when the band was all together at school, we used to do Magic Finger Fridays, and we would do like Instagram lives every Friday night. The pandemic forced us to just do more online stuff, which was tough for us because none of us are tech savvy.
Right, but it almost kind of made you like adapt to the fact that you're like spread apart across the country.
Yeah. It did help us adapt and get ready for the time period that we knew was coming, which is right now, that we are spaced out, and that it was going to get tougher. And we all agreed though before, it's like, you know, I don't really care how tough this might be. None of us want to stop. We don't want to stop writing. We don't want to stop playing.
You're dedicated to the band.
Yeah, it's too much fun.
So it's interesting that, you know, you guys have decided to hold on to this dream and like, you know, really do something with it.
Yeah, and I think we also all kind of feel like we got hosed because we lost out on like a year and a half of live shows.
Right.
And there's definitely
just getting back into the game of it.
Yeah, there's some retribution there. Like, we want to rage. We want to play shows and we want to gig, and it's about damn time that like we get to do it. You know, like I said, we got kind of hosed. We got screwed, and it's time to play. It's time for us to play. We're very excited.
What was your first show back?
So yeah, I think the first show all four was Pete's Candy Shack in It was just this little, like this big, like hallway in this bar in Brooklyn, and you know, drum set was like a little tiny baby kit, and all the amps were like little 5-watt Fenders, and I remember walking in there and thinking to myself, oh my god, they're gonna hate us, we're so loud. And so yeah, that was our first show like after school was over.
That must have been like incredible, just kind of all coming back together for the first time and performing live.
It's very fun.
What was it like interacting with the crowd and seeing, you know, being a live performer again after 2 years basically?
It was really exciting, especially because we didn't really have a lot of time to practice beforehand. Right. It was like a lot of like, okay, we all remember how to do this, so like let's just go do it.
Yeah.
And
let's figure it out as we go.
Yeah, pretty much. So I love being on stage. I love playing on stage. It's something I'm sure that everyone will see at the gig. I don't play with shoes on. I like to play in my socks because it's easier to hit my pedals. And so just like the feeling of playing and like being in front of people, and I almost start like, I get like shaky, and I get kind of jittery, and then always halfway through the set I'll be holding my instrument and I'll think to myself, I don't know what this thing is. I don't know how to play this, and I don't know what's going on.
It's like an out-of-body experience.
Yeah, exactly. And then from there I just kind of go.
Okay. I know you're also going to be running a digital awareness show. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah. We do live visuals and recorded visuals, but we can sync the visual up with the audio. We have a bunch of audio reactive boxes that can process RCA signal, and we recently got an IZ, which is really cool. It's a Critter and Guitari product that allows us to process. You take a visual input or the visual that's generated in the IZ, and you bring in an external audio source. What we do is like we mic up the setup to like what the acts kind of want, and then we can decide like, okay, so for this section you want all kick, or you want vocal or guitar, or, you know, and blend it with a mixer and send that through the visual processor, and then your visuals are going to be reactive to what you're playing. And then we also have this thing called an edit-roll, which allows us to mix 4 different signals at once. So we can play, like our setup right now is we have a VCR that we usually play like a monster truck video in, or like a skating video in. And then we have Lumen, which is a visual, and then the IZ, which is the visual, and then a camera that we kind of walk around with. And that setup can be adapted to anything.
And this will be playing through all your songs during the show?
I think it's every set.
Wow.
I think it's anyone. I think it's the whole gig. We'll be doing visuals for every act. So.
Oh, that's sweet. What are your like plans for the future, and how can we find out more about Magic Finger?
Yeah, so we're gonna break ground on a new record soon and start making some new music. And you can find us on Spotify or Apple Music as Magic Finger, and our Instagram handle is Magic Finger Music. And you can find us on Facebook as Magic Finger. Our logo is like this, but it's made out of bones. And it says Magic Finger. And yeah, we're on Amazon Music too, I guess. I don't know, I got that email the other day.
Are you on Pandora?
I think so. I got that email a while ago. So yeah, we're just on there every kind of platform, but the social medias are Magic Finger Music.
Cool. All right. Awesome. Great job, everyone. Yes, great job.
All right, cool. That's it.